Hey guys, this is 2 days in a row. We are live. I am here with This Effin GM from, I think his channel is This Effin GM Games. You can find it in the video description down below. I am going to talk for just a second here because I am stalling because sometimes it takes a minute to come up on everyone's YouTube. So just a reminder, I know I like to bring a lot of people with differing opinions on my channel, and I like to hear opinions from all over when it comes to GMing and how we are running our games. And I will remind everyone once again, please do not personally attack my guests ever. Not that this happens often, but I like to, keep it as a general rule here on my channel. Anyway, this is, I can call you Will, right? I just did. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no. I begin most of my videos with my full government name, so
right.
Yeah, Will is fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Will, can you tell us who are you? What do you do? What do you want everyone to know about you?
Oh, yeah. So my name is Will, Will or Tramp or This Effin GM, whatever you want to call me. I, at least in terms of, I guess what's relevant to here is I make YouTube videos and TikTok videos about my journey to becoming a better dungeon master, as well as my thoughts and feelings about certain books that I read and things like that. Sometimes I do reviews of shows, things like that. I don't know. I do a lot of stuff right now. I also craft terrain, as you can see behind me. This is all secretly a paid advertisement for my terrain business. Thank you, Harmony.
Wait, did you make all that behind you?
Yeah. Did you not? Yeah. Yeah. I
make. No, I didn't know that. Show off your favorite. Show us your favorite. Yeah. No, seriously, I want to know.
Okay. Yeah. I think I like this one a lot. Hold on here. Let me bring this little guy here. This is a Baba Yaga hut. It's probably one of my favorite pieces. It's this little hut right here on chicken legs. And what I love about this particular piece, and I don't design these pieces just so we're clear, I just paint them. What I like about this piece is the legs come off and you have a little hut. And yeah, it's cool. But yeah, I make I'm known to some people on Twitter for my my terrain 3D printing, painting, all that jazz. So yeah. What was that? Yeah, dang it. I think you asked multiple questions and I only answered the one.
Yeah, I just said, who are you? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, yeah. Then I also have 3 kids, and I'm that's about really. There's not a lot to say about me, I guess. I don't know. Oh, I've also been a dungeon master for Forever GM for what, 25 years now? 25 years. So.
Wow. I'm not going to ask your age. Right.
Older than you think, younger than you might think. So
not making guesses. Ooh, this isn't good. Right. Glad you mentioned your kids. Those are perfect. I run D&D with my niece and nephews, and it's the best thing ever. It really is. I truly hope you have that experience. I bet you do.
Running for kids is I have so much to say about that. I'm not going to hijack the conversation already.
No, please.
Running for kids is the best, man. So like the thing is, I've noticed, I played with a lot of the same people for quite a long time, and I love playing with my friends. But every so often, I'll bring the kids in on a game, and they are not constrained by the habits that we start to form as gamers and as game masters. They come to the game with a complete freedom. And all those things that you wish your players would do sometimes as a DM. Like I wish they'd think outside the box, or think outside the rules a little more, or really like try to kind of get into what's happening here rather than focusing on the minutia. And that's what the kids do. And it makes me a better dungeon master every single time I put them at the table, because by sheer virtue of just wanting to do whatever they want to try to do, it makes me better, because I now have to come up with answers I've never had to before. I love running for children. It's the best.
I have to know, because I have a problem when I run for my niece and nephew. And that is, my niece really wants to be friends with everything, and I can't get her to fight anything but an ooze. But my nephew wants to just obliterate everything. Like, he won't talk to quest NPCs or anything. He just, every time he's like, I throw acid on him. Like, everything. do your kids have like at least similar play styles?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. My daughter Evie is very, very slow, methodical with how she goes about anything. She will get into combat, but she wants to explore like the friendship avenues, whereas JD, my younger daughter, is pure chaos, 100%. Whatever comes to her mind immediately, which is almost always destroy that thing. And it's like, okay, well, that's a friendly baker. Do you know what a baker is? No, I don't, but I want to destroy it. Okay, let me explain what a baker is first, real quick, just so we're all on the same page. Yeah, no, this is definitely a thing, and I like to say it's a delightful way for me to teach them how to come to a consensus. The reality is, I just sort of kind of go, okay, I picked Evie's idea last time, we're gonna go with JD's idea this time. I picked JD's idea last time, I'm not gonna go with Evie. That's mainly what ends up really happening.
Yeah, I actually really like that thought. I think somebody here in chat has said, Snake Oil Sean says, I really do enjoy GMing for people with no preconceptions about the game. It gives you a whole new perspective on it, and that's kids. It really is.
Yeah, kids or people who have, if you get that rare person, like maybe you're at work or something, who's like, hey, D&D seems interesting, but I never really tried it. It's like, yeah, absolutely, come to my table. I always ask them first, what are they thinking? Like, what would you like to do? And like, I let them set the stage for everyone else, just to see, like guys, I tell my veterans, like, hey, hold on, be quiet. Let them cook for a second. See what they're gonna do. Watch what you could be doing if we weren't all in the same rut.
It is really fun to work with like blank slate players that have never played an RPG before, and kids fall under that, but kids are like way more chaotic than anyone else ever gets. But anyway, I kind of want to segue. This is going to be the least well done segue into something else, but we're gonna go here. Let's go from kids to, I want to know about something you have been kind of big on Twitter for. You've been like the #1 player in this that I've seen, and that is this AI art controversy. All right, so you found yourself kind of in the middle of a couple AI art controversies, and I'm not going to try and summarize it. I'm going to ask you to. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and where you fall on it?
So I realized that I have a hot button. I did not know this until I first saw it. The one of the big things right now, as you mentioned, is AI art and whether AI art should be being used in tabletop RPGs or not. And I have my own thoughts and feelings about that. But where I found my true trigger is this new sort of I don't know what to call it, but this habit of people to start using this whole controversy to try to attack game companies, specifically Wizards of the Coast, and by accusing them of accepting AI art. But really what's happening is they are accusing all of these artists of using AI art and like basically ruining these people's reputations in an attempt to try to get at Wizards. And this is where I found myself embroiled the most, is where people have started to make these false claims. And in their heart of hearts, I think they're standing up to the big guy, but if you really look at what they're doing, they're actually tearing down the very people that they're trying to claim that they're trying to protect. And it is the most infuriating thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like I get so angry about this.
So here, I'm gonna put some of this up here. Oh geez, it's this one. Okay. So here, this is I believe here, let's see the final piece. This was, I think, the final piece that was this is the one that you stepped in on, correct?
That's the first one. Yeah.
Okay. It was mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, this was when I was a bit more passive aggressive about it. I remember there was a takedown video that was created about this particular one, where someone was playing AI investigator, and going through the whole 10-minute spiel about how these are all the reasons that show that this work is AI. But really, like a lot of it, when you start to like watch the video and you're like looking at this, it's like, oh, these are small things that an artist might have missed, or just they may have trouble drawing this particular thing. I think my favorite one that AI investigators say is like, look where their eyes are focusing. It's like, Yeah, eyes are tough. I don't know if you've ever tried to like paint eyes on a miniature, but I can tell you it's tough, and drawing it can't be any easier. Anyway, yeah, so I saw the video, and then I got kind of mad, and I made a video about it, AI art, or TTRPG's AI art and us, or something like that. This particular person who actually called this one out had my very favorite response to the whole situation when they realized they realized they were wrong. They realized that not only were they wrong, but their actions could have caused some real harm to a very talented artist. And they took the video down, they made a public apology, and they also made a public statement that they would never like try to lead one of these again. And that person and I are buddies now. I like to think we're buddies.
Well, that's
And
good.
yeah. And anytime that I find myself in another controversy, I notice that they are right over there saying the same thing that I am. It's like, hey, we need to be careful about this. These are real human beings,
And you kind of see where people are coming from, because AI art is everywhere now. And this particular artist, Christian Hoffer, I believe, am I wrong to say, is he the same artist that did the new PHB cover?
Now, just so we're clear, Christian Hoffer is not the artist. Christian
Oh,
Hoffer is
he's not the
actually
artist?
no, he's
Oh,
not. He is an
okay.
investigator. Not an investigator. Sorry. Oh my goodness, he's a journalist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking he was the artist, but that's because I just brought it up on his Twitter. I can't believe anybody would ever post somebody else's art on Twitter. So
yeah,
should be a crime.
Christian Hoffer, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken, has made a name for himself. Sort of keeping track of these things going on. I do not remember off the top of my head what publication he writes for, but he's a journalist.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because I've seen his name pop up here, and that's probably because he's reporting on this stuff, and I don't like, I see the name and I'm like, oh yeah, he probably drew that. Do you know what the author's name is offhand? Because I'm not 100%. Let me see.
Trying to remember.
Yeah,
I feel so bad.
Okay. But yeah, he ended up having to post stages of his work to prove that it wasn't AI.
Yeah,
and I can kind of see where people are coming from on this, because AI art is everywhere, and we have clear examples of. Oh, is this not? It's not switching over. Okay, we have clear examples of other situations where Wizards of the Coast has been caught using AI art.
Yes.
Let's see if I can find it. Like here, for example, this is Glory of the Giants, where we have AI assisted art. It's not full AI. I believe the artist did draw most of it, but it had like the AI assisted. And so you can kind of see where people are coming from on this, like where they want human art, but it's a bit misplaced sometimes when they're coming after artists who just have similar styles to what AI has copied, basically. And that's not their fault. Like if they've been drawing in that style, and then that's like what AI has picked up and it becomes the default AI style, like I don't know what they're supposed to do.
Well, and I know, especially for Glory of the Giants, because this was a huge deal, because there's like a number of pictures within that book that were that this happened to, and it was a horrible situation, and nobody was happy in it. And the thing that Wizards, and by the way, I want to be super clear, I'm not being paid by Wizards to defend them or anything like that, but yeah, they definitely screwed up with this one. And then so they went in, and they from everything I saw, they went in, they fixed it as best they could. They made sure that they put into their agreements with all contracts with artists saying, hey, basically, we aren't going to use AI art anymore, and we expect you not to either. We don't have the best detection methods, but if we find out it is AI art, it's gone, right? And so and then I think there was right after that, there was a Magic the Gathering tweet that was made that there was some concern over AI art, and I cannot remember how that one ended up. But what I do know is that ever since then, Wizards has made it very clear, very publicly, that as best as we can, we will not accept these types of submissions anymore. The problem is, and this is where I see this a lot just overall in the fandom, is people are mad at Wizards of the Coast, and I 100% understand that, and I do not deny anybody their anger. What I do get a little iffy on is at what are are we talking about real things that they are currently doing, or are we trying to create new sins so we can continue riding the wave of rage? Does that make sense?
A bit, yeah. I'm seeing people are kind of going through what you're saying here in the chat, and we have I kind of want to go through something with you because I think it's interesting. We have Evil Minion says other things as posting examples. You can get AI made progress drawings, but I mean, then we have a good point here by Timothy M. Holt. What is the level of proof that people want? Like what level of proof? If progress drawings don't constitute proof, if those can be AI generated too, do we know anything anymore?
Well, and to me, a question that I ask myself, I ask myself at least is, there's what level of proof do we want? It's really what level of proof do we deserve? At what point do we have to accept that not everything is going to be laid bare to us? Yes, we purchase, some of us, not all of us, obviously, purchase the books and we take part in this hobby. But in the end, how much do we believe that we are owed on this, and how much do we have to give and realize, hey, some of this is we're just going to have to take it on faith? Not saying that WotC has done a lot of good faith stuff in the past year, but eventually we have to, I feel like we're going to have to hit a breaking point where we just have to accept that we're not going to get all the answers anymore.
I think that's kind of going to be what it is, because there are AI detection tools online, but I think everybody has seen situations where they misfire or where they'll detect AI and there's no AI there. It's really hard to be sure of this stuff. And well, I don't know the answer.
When have you, I don't know if you've been following the Adobe controversy, and my knowledge is stupid low about it. So I am not an AI expert, just so we're clear. I mainly just know about people accusing people of AI. That's the subject I know about. But the Adobe situation makes things even harder because I guess that there's some pictures that are being some images that are being created in Adobe, then they're being put on like Instagram, but Instagram are flagging them as AI, even though they're not. But because embedded within the coding is something that Adobe puts there that then flags it. So, these AI detection tools, I'm not sure what these tools are using to determine this, but things like that are muddying the waters really badly and making these tools even less useful. We're in kind of a new frontier right now, and it's going to take a while till we really have the satisfactory tools, I think, to really give us these answers. And it sucks. It sucks to be in this position, right?
It does, because I know everybody wants human-made art. It has true soul in it. AI art, I think we can probably mostly agree that AI art, while it can look pretty at first glance, it lacks something that art just needs. It lacks soul. It lacks feeling. It lacks meaning. And I think, go ahead.
No, I would say I do fully agree. In case I'm not making that clear, I know I keep saying I have my opinions about AI art. I'm like, just so we're clear, I strongly prefer human art in every way, shape, or form. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
Right. And there's some AI art that I've seen. I'm like, yeah, okay, that looks good. But and sometimes you do have artists who can't, or you do have publishers or writers who can't really afford art for their work that end up not using stock art, but AI art. And I will say, I think there's a lot of gray area here. I think I definitely feel differently about small time publishers using it than like big time publishers. But I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know where I land on this issue. I'm always kind of looking for new opinions on it. And you seem to have some here. And I think somebody in chat here, Sweet Threat, says something I think we can mostly agree with. Which is, we're not interested in hunting down artists. We want companies like WotC being held accountable so that we get our money's worth if it is given to WotC.
Yeah,
and I think go ahead.
No, I say yeah, 100%, right? You know, when it's a term I like to I've been using this term since I was like 10 years, not 10 years old, 12 years old or something. I don't know. Whatever. I call it the misattribution of sin, right? There are really good solid reasons not to give your money to a company that you don't want to. There are great reasons not to. And not that anybody needs to necessarily explain their reasonings to anybody else, but there are great reasons to say, "Hey, this company is not for me and maybe it shouldn't be for you too." What I'm But then we start doing what's called the misattribution of sin, where we go, well, if they're guilty of X, then they must also be guilty of Y, Z, then all the way back to A, B, C, D, because we want our villains to be more villainous, right? And it's like we don't need to make up these extra reasons.
Okay. Okay.
That's how I feel about it, at least. And I kind of see like what they are saying there. I That's kind of what it's reminding me of, is like the idea of there's no reason to hunt down artists. There's already
Mhm.
reasons not to give money, great reasons. You don't need to we don't need to sacrifice an artist's integrity to make an even bigger villain out of WotC, is my thought
Okay.
process.
Yeah, because I think you almost said something here, but then stopped short of it. Uh, I think that there are already great reasons not to give money to WotC. I don't believe I've bought a WotC book in several years, and I don't give them money anymore. For several reasons, actually. I think the quality of their books has gone down quite a bit. I think I don't think they've released a great quality adventure in a while, personally. Um, oh,
I'm
do you
really
disagree?
yes and no.
Okay,
Yes and no.
tell me why.
I want when you say quality, just so we are
Hmm.
clear, are you talking about the contents, like the content of the story and the adventure?
Yes.
Okay, okay, and I do understand what you're saying there. Sometimes I get wrapped up in the pedanticness, right? The pedant version of quality. Because I'm like, their books are actually really solid quality, in terms of layout, in terms of how they present the books. I think I think in many ways there a lot of publishers could take a lot of notes from how they present their material. Actually, I just grabbed Eve of Ruin, and they've started using heavier paper, which is super great to me because I tear through pages all the time, and they haven't been using bad paper or anything. But they're using even better paper now, and so the quality, like the physical quality, I'm always pretty happy with. Um, but the content quality, I absolutely understand that. Yeah,
Well, look, I don't, if you can give me the prettiest book in the world with the heaviest pages and the most beautiful layout and the best art ever, but if it doesn't produce a good game, I don't care.
that's well, okay. So that's an interesting thing to say, I think. Okay, so here's so we're so you were on a channel yesterday, right? You guys are going through that game. Oh my
Oh yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah,
T-shirted historians channel, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was watching that for a bit, and yeah, one of the questions that T-shirt was asked was like, are you going to be are you going to be replacing the stuff in your home game with this? And what T-shirt historian said was something along the lines of, if I don't, I'll at least be harvesting it, right? I'll be
Hmm.
using, because I think it's literally talking about harvesting rules. Haha, harvesting. Oh man, I'm funny. Anyway, so this is where I think it gets kind of tricky, right? I do not expect a WotC adventure. I don't expect any pre-made adventure to provide me a good game, right? That's not what I expect from these books, because it is almost impossible to find an adventure, a pre-made adventure especially, that's will work for every table. The thing for me is it harvestable? Is there anything worthwhile that at least justifies some of the purchase, right? And that's where I get like that's where I find myself in a weird area with these recent WotC adventures, because I don't love the storylines on most of these, and it's been a while since I've seen one that I was truly impressed by. But there are some harvestable material, and not all of them. Some, I mean, technically all of them, depending on who you ask. But I don't know, and I think that's kind of a weirdly personal. I don't know if I'm doing anything other than arguing devil's advocate right now, Harmony, and I'm so sorry if I am.
Well, I am going to push back on you on this
Please do.
because I think I disagree with this. I think that there are some very good adventures out there that have been made. And I'm just going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons ones right now. And I'm going to go back in time a little bit because we can look at Keep on the Borderlands, Isle of Dread. If you want to look at fifth edition, let's look at third edition, actually. Third edition had Red Hand of Doom. That was an amazing adventure.
Red Hand of Doom is phenomenal. I will die on that hill.
We have, even in fifth edition, there are good adventures in fifth edition. There's Lost Mines of Phandelver is fantastic. Then I'm not going to say anything about the new Lost Mines of Phandelver because I haven't read it. But Lost Mines of Phandelver is fantastic. Like that, I think I've read part of it, but the original adventure. And then there was also Tomb of Annihilation was very good. And these adventures are good at multiple tables. You don't have to change much to get a good experience out of these adventures. They're sandboxy. Players can do things however they want. They provide a good setting. Some of them provide factions to work with. They're really solid adventures that can be replicated at many tables and provide a very good experience. We can also the Ravenloft ones are good. Curse of Strahd was good. Like there's so many good adventures, and we don't have that quality anymore coming out of WotC. I just don't think we do. There's not been an adventure that matches that quality for a while. And I don't think that's too much to expect. I think that if we're going to pay this much money to WotC, we want quality. We want those sort of adventures. That's my take on it.
I have so many things to say. First of all,
go on.
Okay, number one, yes to 90% of what you just said. I have a bone to pick with a couple, but yes, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It's like, because I feel like when I say this, like I'm trying to be nice. It's not really that I'm trying to be nice. It's just my brain thinks about this in a very particular way. But the older adventures for Wizards of the Coast for fifth edition were very solid. Most of them are right out the gate, really darn good. Minimal work that has to be involved. Granted, still work, but minimal work that has to be involved. Then we get into I think, if you were to ask me the point in which things started to go downhill, it was specifically Descent into Avernus. Descent into Avernus sort of marked a change for how they produce for the way that they produced adventures, and they got markedly worse. In fact, actually, in two specific adventures, the biggest sin that I see in there, it is Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and it is what's the other one? The Dragonlance one. The two biggest, they do the same sin in both of those. I keep saying sin. I was raised Catholic. Please forgive my constant use of the word. But in those, they make commentary on, hey, here's this really cool scene that we're going to set up. If your players decide to do anything but this scene, which they aren't there, you show them from a distance. If they do anything but go straight to the scene, just put it in front of them anyway. And, if anybody asks, magic. And it is the most infuriating thing I've ever seen in an adventure in my life. It was so, it made me, I actually, closed the book, threw it down in anger because I was over the top angry at that sort of inclusion in a book where they're trying to teach DMs how to be better DMs. And what they just did was they overtly, flat out said, hey, railroad the hell out of your players. And it wasn't like other adventures have been accused of railroading, but a lot of those older ones, especially from early 5e, were, it's not that I don't think they're necessarily railroads as much as they didn't provide other tools to make it not a railroad. You'd have to buy like 50 other books to, of the setting itself to be able to populate what's outside of that if you want to do it, the official way. But we've started to reach this point where now people are being told, DM the laziest, worst possible way you can. And it makes me so mad. I get so mad talking about this. But you mentioned Into the Borderlands, right? Into the Borderlands I have a weird relationship with, because I think it's a great adventure, but I also think it's trying to do something that we no longer want our pre-made adventures to do. Because if I'm not mistaken, the original Into the Borderlands was empty. Am I getting this right?
It wasn't too filled out now. There's a lot of open stuff. Yeah.
Quest Quayton, right? Like Quest Quayton was a dungeon that was put in there, and then there was no monster specifically anywhere. If I'm forgive me if I'm probably gonna get, I'm gonna butcher this because I'm basing my my knowledge off of the reprint by Goodman Games.
I might be too. It's okay. It's
Oh
okay.
yeah.
Some of us are young.
Hey, I
I
don't
don't
want to
know
spend
what we're talking about.
$300 to go buy an original. I went and bought the Goodman Games one. And that adventure is a weird one to me because I think it required it's purposefully required way more work on the game master than we probably wanted, which is why pretty much every adventure after that hit the mainstream were ones that were filled out a little bit more, but it is good, but it does require a lot of work, I think.
Yeah, and while a lot of these, I know people in the chat are taking issue with me saying that these were sandboxy adventures, but they somewhat were. Like with Keep on the Borderlands, you had like the Caves of Chaos, and you could come back. It was made for multiple crawls, is the thing. And I believe there's other stuff to do in it, but it's but I mean, really, the standard setup with a lot of these is town, dungeon, and maybe some other stuff around, but you have those big mega dungeons, and I mean, you can kind of do them at your own pace, enter them where you will, and it's in some ways very sandboxy. But what I really like about some of these is some of them even have like multiple factions working around in the same universe, and so you have different games end up not only with different outcomes but different journeys, different, like a whole different take on the same setting. And that's something we just don't have anymore. Like a lot of these newer adventures, they seem so railroady. It just goes from encounter to encounter, encounter. And that's I was actually a player in a Wild Beyond the Witchlight game, and that's kind of a thing that we found. That's the last 5e module I ever played in, I believe, was Wild Beyond the Witchlight. It was I mean, I think the DM did the best with it he could, but there were some issues with it. There were some real issues.
Yes. Well, okay. I want to go back to something you just said.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and I could be wrong here, because I wasn't there in the old days, despite my white hairs. I think you and I grew up in the same day, minus like 2 or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. We're about the same
I'm
age.
34.
I'm 37. So
Okay.
yeah, about the same age. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get that out of the way. Anyway. Okay. But the way I look at it, the factions, right? And the way that these adventures are kind of designed to be like, here are all the pieces. Through emergent play, you're going to see how it all comes together, right? And so when you would have a shared experience, like you're at a table playing, Adventure X, and I'm at another table playing the same adventure, you and I could come together and we could tell stories about our adventure, but they would be different. Like we'd recognize pieces in one another's, but they'd be completely different because that's how the game was designed, right? They weren't telling us, here's how these pieces are supposed to progress and at what rate exactly. Here's this, the players are supposed to go through, scene 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It's just, here are these different areas, here are these different factions. Now what we have, and this is kind of a sad thing, is, now you go and you play Adventure Y, Modern Adventure Y, and I go and play Modern Adventure Y. Then we come together, and the only difference between our experiences is what cool power did your character use versus what cool power my character used to defeat the big bad guy, right? And there is something lost in that, and it's very sad.
It is, because that's how video games are. Video games, and I've said this before on my channel, video games are limited by programming. So with a video game, you have that same narrative that will go through in every game, and there might be slight differences. You'll pick choice B instead of choice A, but mostly the differences between different parties going through the same video game is they pick different powers. But TTRPGs are so much more than that, and they should be treated as much more than that, because there is no limit to what you can do. And I think people don't realize that. People are so used to video games. I feel that a lot of newer DMs especially have like video game brain going in.
I would agree. I like to think that I didn't play many video games when I was a kid, but I did have novel brain, which effectively creates the same problem, right? Because I grew up reading the Dragonlance novels, and that's how I started DMing. It's like, hey, Dragonlance novels, things are supposed to go like this, right? Anyway, I will say, just to play devil's advocate, something you kind of said there. Yeah, the only one's the imagination. In a TTRPGs do have that capability, whereas video games do not. But I will say there are plenty of people who want that video game experience just at the table. And it's not my favorite way to play, but I do understand why they would want that. It's like we have these chaotic, horrifying lives, right? With like real big actual things happening to us at all times. And sometimes I want to sit down at a table and I want to think my way through problems and I want to create my own path. Sometimes I just kind of want to be told where to go so I can just slap something in the face with the side of a greatsword. It just kind of depends on the day for me. And I know that there are many people who very strongly are on one side of that, very strongly are on the other. I'm kind of iffy on it. Like I know my personal preference, but if people are having fun.
What's your personal preference?
My personal preference? It's going to sound like a non-answer.
Go for it.
Yeah, my personal preference is whatever causes the most fun with me and my friends. And I know that sounds super lame, but I have run games where things are super, super open before, and I love running those games. But then I have some of my players who they find that the most frustrating experience. They get analysis paralysis on it, and they start to they've accidentally opened up 16 different threads because they just kept going in every little direction. My wife does this a lot. She's a completionist. So if you give her a sandbox, she won't follow she won't like follow up on something. She will go, well, before we follow up on this, let's open this door, also this door, also this door, also this door, and then suddenly overloaded with information, doesn't know what to do, right? And this causes an issue. And so even though that's fun for me sometimes, it may not be fun for the particular people I'm playing. So then I move over to a more story-focused one, like where the story is kind of already, I have an idea of where, we have an idea of where this may go, but we're gonna see what path you end up taking to eventually get there. And some people feel that's very restrictive. I feel that's very restrictive, but I also know that some of my players find a lot of comfort in that. And in the end, I'm going to pick whichever one makes them go, boy, I can't wait to be back there next Tuesday. Right.
I'm just so into open sandboxing games right now, and I have been for a very long time, I guess. Oh man, I can't help myself. I want to respond to what you said, but I'm going to tell a story because I just played D&D this morning.
Me too.
Yeah, so I have this big open game going right now with it meets twice a week in different parts of the world, and we're using one-to-one time, so we have more than one group meeting, and I'm a player in one and a DM in the other group, so it's a little bit convoluted. But we all met this morning, and we're kind of the evil group. It's not because I'm a player, it's just because we're evil spider people. And man, I learned about a lizard folk village nearby, and I was like, oh, we got to go subjugate them. Like they're too close to our homeland. And so we went on, we tried to like bring back the lizard people. We tried to brutalize them, and they chased us. They chased us away, and one of us almost died. It was terrible. And it did not go well. But that's the kind of thing that would never happen in a narrative focused game, because the DM will always push the players to do something that they're ready for. The DM will always push like the players to do something that's like at their level. But with this one, we went and tried something way above our level. We tried something just stupidly evil, and we got our asses kicked and totally deserved it. And it's a fun story. Yeah, it was the arachno-capitalists. And so is what they call them.
Oh no, I've been following.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been following your videos.
So yeah, no, we're playing as arachno-capitalists. In one game, we're just trying to subjugate the nearby villages that we think are too close to our homeland. And it's not working particularly well.
So
go ahead.
First of all, I love that. And yeah, I've been following along your videos about how you created the world and such, and fascinated by one time. And I actually had a conversation with Gelatinous Shroob a couple of months ago, and who wrote the definitive video about it for anybody looking for it. There, I'm going to plug Gelatinous Shroob real quick. So this is such an interesting thing to me, because you said like this is something you can't do in a narrative game, and this is very much not my experience. So I'm trying to figure out like how to say this. I try to approach creating any game that I'm working on as a sandbox, right? And then the idea is that for me, it's like create as a sandbox, but there is a through story if you want to follow it, right? So it becomes a lever, right? I have my sandbox lever that I pull, and then I have my storyline lever to pull, right? So we're following the story, we're doing the thing just like the book tells us to follow this story, and then the players decide, you know what, we want to do something a little bit different here for a minute, and my brain says, well, yeah, cool, I've already prepared all the sandbox, so that's when I just go, sweet, let's do it. Like let's flip this lever. It is now time to jump off of it. We'll put a pause on this. And I don't know if this is just not something. I don't know if this is like. I just assume everybody's been doing that. I don't know if I'm wrong here, but like I kind of just like the idea of like you can't go off the rail. Like the DMs will try to push them back on the rails. I feel that that's something I used to do when I was like I feel it's something young DMs, not young, but immature DMs do, right? You can't go off the rails, but then you do it, you don't let them go off the rails, then you realize that sucked, and then you maybe fix it as time goes on and get a little bit more open. And now what I do is I'll grab the adventure that I want to do. Like mine is Shackled City right now. That's my story game I'm running through, and it has a very clear scene by scene story. But all of my lonely fun, all the time in between when I'm preparing the world and getting things together, is expanding that line, right? Like building around that storyline and going of like, okay, well, here's new sandbox stuff to add because they mentioned slight interest here, slight interest here, slight interest here. And if they want to follow the story path, they totally can. The path is clear. But if I'm prepared at any moment to go, let's jump off that. Let's go do something else. The moment you want to. Am I explaining myself very well here?
Yeah,
okay.
You are. It's I think there's like a lot of gray area between sandbox and railroad. There's
spectrum, I think. I feel
it really is. And I mean, I'm kind of a believer, and generally extremes are not where you want to be. But I I will say I do lean way more heavily towards sandbox play than narrative play at this point, which I know narrative, I'm using narrative and railroad interchangeably, and I know that's not quite correct. But yeah,
we all do it.
Very much more on the sandbox level. And you were talking about giving your players a ton of freedom, which is good. I mean, I've actually seen you DM because you have a live play, and
you watched that?
I have. I did. You were running. I actually recognized the scenario you were running when I did. I watched one of the episodes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Unless it was terrible, then oh no. Well, it was.
No, you were fine. Yeah, I think it was one of your early ones.
I do remember that you watched it because you told me about how our sound sucked. I remember that now. You totally did. No, well, not in that you weren't mean about it at all. Actually, but fun fact, I remember you saying that to me, and we went and bought better mics as a result of that, because I was like, well, like, you weren't the only person who said that. I'm not saying we went and bought things. We must because Harmony said. No, it was but you made that comment, and then a couple of other people that I trusted made that comment as well. And so we went and bought better mics. But when we started that thing, it was a nightmare. Like, we had no idea what we were doing. We had the worst equipment. We had no idea what we were doing. It was. Oh, I would do things so differently now.
Well, that's what this stuff is. Like, you have to put things online, you get feedback, and like everyone's always improving. You have to put mediocre content online before you put good content online is the general rule.
Yeah.
For like everyone, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have seen a little bit of your DMing, and how would you say, like, I know you have had this series, How to Be a Better GM, and you've been sharing tips, and I've noticed you are not stagnant. And that's something I'm very interested in about you. You have not stagnated as far as your DMing style. You've kept it changing. In fact, you've been in my DMs, and we talked about this before the show, but you've been in my DMs asking me, like, what are you doing? How do you do this Bronstein stuff? How does your timekeeping influence that? And you've been in my DMs like asking about this stuff because it seems you are always kind of changing how you do things. So how would you like compare what changes have you made in like the past year to your games? I'm just curious.
Oh, so many.
Okay.
Can I tell a quick story?
Yes.
Okay. So I stagnated for years, for so long. I taught myself how to DM. I didn't have any nobody. I had one experience where somebody DM'd for me, and it was the worst experience of my life, which then caused me to say I'm going to be a dungeon master, which is how I became a forever DM. And I stagnated for so long because I was trying to teach myself, and I didn't have access to the internet or forums or anything like that. So I ran it, ran it my way, the way I like to run it, for about 15 years. And it sucked. I was really bad at it. I didn't realize I was bad at it until, weirdly enough, Critical Role. And this is such a weird thing to say. I'm not saying Matt Mercer made me a better DM or that. What I am saying is I started watching Critical Role just to see what people were talking about. And I remember watching and Mercer starts getting angry at one of his players, right? Like you could hear the voice change, you could hear that like his tone changed, and he's not like overtly getting angry with them, but you notice that he suddenly gets a little harsher with the rules. And I saw that moment and I went, holy crap, watch how he gets himself out of this, right? Like watch how he becomes kind of a dick for a second and he goes back. I'm like, wait, I can pull myself back from that. And it was like the most interesting thing to see somebody else DM with the anger moments, because I was a very angry DM all the time, because I was constantly fighting with the player. So after watching a few episodes of that, I realized I need to get better at this. This is a skill. I need to get better at this. So I am constantly changing how my games work. I want to be clear about this. I'm not creating inconsistent experiences for my players. That's what I want to avoid that. You don't want them to come at the table going, what the hell rules are we doing today? But I'm always looking for how to do everything better. And whether or not it's, things I've changed in the past year. That was the actual question you asked. Okay. I've been started talking a lot, being a lot more upfront with my players about what we're looking to do. We have a lot more conversations outside. I have a lot of players who were into acting, right? So they're very heavy into character development and story. And one thing that I have learned to start doing recently is, hey, I want you to tell me kind of where are you going with this? Like you don't have to reveal any secrets, but outside of the table, why don't you? I'm trying to figure out like a good explanation to have this. Hey man, you seem really aggressive. Your character seems really aggressive right now. Do you want to just maybe tell us out of character what you're going for here so we can all buy into this? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to do this. Oh, okay, now we get it. All right, back in the game, right? Let's. So we a lot more pauses of clarification, because good Lord, I misunderstand people. Every single one of my sessions now. This is a change in the past year. We stop and we end the session. I got this from my friend Daniel. We end the session with like, hey, how does your character feel about the events of tonight's session? Right? Like, how are you? And that number one gives me a chance to kind of get their mental feel or emotional feel, but also gives me a chance to see what did they pick up on and what did they not pick up on, right? Like, what are things that may have gotten missed or lost in translation, things like that. Those are right now the social changes are where I'm focused on really heavily because I've only that's where I'm focusing really heavily. That was a long explanation. I am so sorry.
Oh no, you're good. So one thing I've noticed about you and your games, and I kind of touched on this, but it sounds like you're always trying to get better. And that is an attitude quite a lot of people have, I think, but there are a lot of people that don't, because there are some people who will say, and this isn't something I made up, and I'm not targeting anybody, especially anybody in my audience with this specifically. So if you feel like this is targeted for you, it's not, I promise. But there are some people who will say, this person said, this person is not a good person. They're pushing an idea I like, but they're not a good person, so I'm not going to use the idea. You're not like that, though. You go around and I've noticed that you will follow anybody and you will listen to anybody and you don't care what political opinions or where they fall in a lot of ways, because you just kind of want a spectrum of opinions. Do I have that right?
Sort of. For the most part, yes.
Okay.
What is far more important to me than their, say, political leanings, and I do have opinions on people's political leanings, but what is far more important to me is how people treat other people, right?
Okay.
That is the most important thing to me. And if like, so for instance, you and I may not necessarily agree on everything on that sort of spectrum, but I like how you treat people. I love how you treat people, because you aren't a jerk to people. So I want to hear, like, I am very willing to hear what you have to say. Now, also, you just happen to hold an experience that I want to know. Like, you're like one time. I'm very one time curious. And uh very, you know, I'm one time curious. Anyway,
You
what
can
a
call
weird
it, you can
phrase.
call it like bro curious if you
Yeah,
want.
bro.
That's like
I'm bro curious.
very much.
And there are a lot of great ideas that come from everywhere, right? Great ideas that come from everywhere. I will say I don't make friends with everybody. But almost always the answer, despite that it may seem like I don't like certain sides of a political spectrum, it's actually I don't. The only ones I truly try to kind of shut off are the ones who treat other people poorly. How do you treat the opposition, right?
Okay.
And that's where that's
Yeah, and
yeah.
and I may have spoke a little bit too soon on that. It's just kind of what I've seen. Just because you're friends with, I know you're friends with me, you're friends with Gelatinous Rube, and you're friends with like some of us, but I know you're friends with a lot of people that really disagree with and I don't mean to put me and Gelatinous Rube in the same sort of camp
You're actually the
necessarily.
same people. I know you use a voice modulator.
No, no, not even close. But I don't mean to put us in the same camp because sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. But
Right.
it seems that you're kind of willing to listen to people on that side and the other side, but not everyone. Because I mean, I know we have people in chat. They're like, nope, he has me blocked. But I mean, that happens, right? I'm not here to judge anybody for who they block on Twitter. I've been in some really dumb Twitter fights before and ended up blocking people and unblocking them a month later and then changing my mind and blocking them again. So
Yeah, but and you know, if anybody in chat is saying I blocked you, 99% of the time it has nothing to do with anything other than I don't like how you treated me. But that's okay, it doesn't matter. I don't want to focus on that. But yeah, it's I T-shirted historian is one of my favorite examples. I
mhm.
like T-shirted historian. T-shirted historian and I don't know how he feels about me, but here's how I feel about T-shirted historian. I feel that he and I, there are many things we disagree on. And so we just don't comment on those posts, right? Like he doesn't come to my page and be like, actually, let me tell you why you're an idiot, Will. And I don't go to his and say, actually, T-shirted, let me tell you why you're an idiot. We just don't interact with each other at those moments. And it's one of my it's like in that it's like I feel like there's this just like quiet agreement to like, hey, let's come together when we have something positive to talk to each other about. And I love that. It's been one of my favorite parts, and I get to learn so much from him because we aren't having the hey, we're buds, so I can trash on your beliefs, right? It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. That sucks. Gelatinous Rube and I kind of, I would say, in some ways similar. We just don't talk to each other about the things that we are going to fight about because what's the point? What's the point of
Sure.
doing that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about gaming. We want to talk about gaming. There's a lot we can learn from each other, or primarily I can learn from them. So yeah, I'm good. Like, cool. Let's do that.
Yeah, as someone who has never done a single thing in my life at all controversial, I can totally agree with that.
Never,
Um,
never.
no controversy here. Um, but yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I don't actually mind when people when people comment and disagree with me on my posts. Like, I don't care at all. You can disagree all you want. It's how I feel like that's how I improve at things. Sometimes people have actually convinced me that I was wrong. But anyway, to segue here to we're kind of at the point where we're about to wrap up. Is
I'm
there
so sorry.
anything in chat you would like to address, or
I am.
anything that I didn't ask you that you were hoping I was going to ask you?
I'm trying to look through chat. I've not been paying
Oh
attention
gosh, it's
to chat.
yeah, there's a lot.
So many people. Hello, everyone. I'm now looking at your
Yeah,
words.
you're famous.
Now, real quick, just to, I am going to say one thing. And just for I feel now I'm playing politician real quick. I don't mind the disagreements. I just it's always it's not the disagreements that bother me. It's the way we disagree. That's what I look out for. If you say, hey, I don't agree with your friend, cool, that's fine. If it's, hey, you're a dumb fucking idiot and I don't agree with you, I'm like, hey, and that's where you got to go because you can't talk to people like that, right? That's my own personal thing, because I'm kind of a whiner. What are your thoughts on AI art? Oh yeah, I don't particularly like it, but it's also a gray area, so it's kind of hard to let's
So
see.
at the beginning of the stream, watch the VOD.
Yeah. Any questions, thoughts on AI art? What are my thoughts on certain people? I have thoughts, I guess. Not going to go into that. I'm not gonna call anyone in particular out.
Nah, it's probably best not to. I don't like to start like flame wars with people. I don't call anyone out specifically on my shows.
I only rarely do it, and I always feel wildly guilty after I do it.
It feels so bad.
Yeah.
Like I've walked in on people like saying mean things on me. Oh gosh, R-Dubs is asking it again. All right, we'll put it up.
Yours was the one I was saying I'm avoiding.
Oh.
That's the one I meant.
What have I done? What have I done?
Oh, did you put it up yet, by the way?
What?
Oh, you said you're going to put one up from R-Dubs.
Yeah. It was just that one. Don't worry about it.
It's like, I'm not going to go into that. We don't have to go into that whole
guys,
thing.
just end the one time versus the bros and tell DMs if it makes sense to cut your session short. It's perfectly okay to freeze time and continue next week from time to time.
Of course, it's perfectly fine. If that's the game you're running. If it's not the game you're running, then it's not fine. But you got to decide that at the beginning. That's my opinion. It's like you decide that at the beginning with your players, and you set forth the expectation. And then if the expectation is you don't hit pause, then it's not okay to hit pause then, because you're defining the expectations that you set forth.
I mean, I think, it's about setting expectations. I think it produces a different type of game, and you should play the type of game you want to play. And having an always-on campaign is different than a not always-on campaign. I personally prefer an always-on campaign. I think it runs better. However, I mean, I can't tell you what to do. You do you.
And on that note, like, there are some weeks where I would love to play an always-on campaign. There are other weeks where I'm like, oh, cool, our game is done for the night. Cool. Do not contact me for another week.
Right.
There's, my mental state changes constantly. Good old bipolar. So, sometimes I would love that. Other times, no, leave me the fuck alone. Please go away. I don't want to play all the time. We are going to pause because I don't want to do this right now.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
If that's the type of game you want to play, like I'm not here. I'm not going to break down your door and be like, is your campaign currently running?
She will break down your door whether you are microwaving your turkey bacon or not, though.
Yes, I do love microwave turkey bacon. It's actually the best type of bacon. Objectively, that one's correct. There's no like you do you on bacon. Right. Anyway.
Objectively, this is.
Yes. Anyway. Is there anything that you would like to end off with? Anything you want to address, or any last statements before we go ahead and end the stream?
No, I don't. I mean, there's going to be 1,000 things that pop into my head about half an hour from now, because that's always how it goes. Like right now, I'm in having a conversation blackout mode, where I don't really know where I am right now. No, I think it's a fun conversation. Actually, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah,
so thank you for having me on. Here's my question for you. Here's a quick question.
Yes.
One of the things you had said to me was you think we are going to disagree about a lot of things, and my theory was that we wouldn't disagree on nearly as many things as you might think. Where do you land now?
I think, that's hard to say.
Right.
I think we're I don't think we're the same. I think we talked about a lot of the things that we agree on and sort of left out a lot of our disagreements. Because I do think we have rather large differences of opinion that went rather unstated, but that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Just let's leave things on. Let's try to leave things on a horrible cliffhanger for anybody. What do you think we would have vehemently disagreed
on? I think that let's see. Just something you're asking me to say something really controversial.
I am.
Okay. Let's see. A very controversial statement to end on.
And you don't have to if you're not comfortable doing it. I just thought this was
no, I say controversial things all the time. I really do. I think that Yeah, I think since we were talking about wizards, I think a lot of their newer modules have been ruined by bad writing, and I think a lot of it has to do with the people that they put in for qualifications other than their writing.
I don't think we would disagree super strongly on that, actually. I just don't talk about
Okay.
it very much, but I don't think we'd actually disagree very much on that. I don't know. There's nobody in particular that comes to mind, but things have changed. I have some opinions about who is hired. I also have a lot of opinions about who is not working there anymore, and those are ones I don't typically share very often. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm curious. That's an interesting one. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I
Anyway,
like that.
we're gonna go ahead and end the stream on that cliffhanger. Thanks, guys, for hanging around. I've been told my takes are not hot. My takes. I've also been told my takes are normie and lame, but that's okay. I should get a position. Yeah. I can say very disagreeable things in an agreeable way. All right, the lukewarmest of takes. I understand. All right. Well, for the hot takes, you'll have to tune in next week because next week I'm going to be talking to Richard Witters is going to be here with me.
I love that
you
guy.
Like yeah,
I love Richard Witters. I'm so jealous.
Yeah. Well, he wants to talk to me. Sorry. Anyway,
Fine.
I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful Sunday evening.